Most people believe stress and depression come from life being difficult, unfair, or overwhelming. They assume the pressure comes from responsibilities, relationships, uncertainty, or circumstances outside their control. That belief feels logical. It feels obvious. It feels true. But it isn't. If stress truly came from events, then everyone facing the same conditions would suffer equally. They don't. Some people remain steady while others collapse under far less weight. That difference matters. It tells us something important is happening beneath the surface. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology tried to explain it. Stress and depression do not begin in the world. They begin in interpretation. They arise in the silent moment between what happens and what the mind decides it means. That moment is small, but it shapes everything that follows. When the mind interprets reality as threatening, unfair, personal, or unbearable, the body reacts as if danger is present. When that reaction repeats without interruption, it becomes a pattern. When the pattern becomes familiar, it becomes identity. At that point, stress and depression stop feeling temporary and start feeling permanent. This is not because the mind is broken. It is because the mind is untrained. Stoic philosophy does not promise a life without difficulty. It promises something far more realistic and powerful. A mind that no longer collapses under difficulty. A mind that stays clear under pressure. A mind that does not amplify pain by adding unnecessary meaning. The goal is not to escape emotion. The goal is to stop being ruled by it. What follows is not motivation. It is not denial. It is not optimism. It is a practical mental framework built on 8 Stoic principles that remove stress and depression at their root. Each principle builds on the one before it. Together, they reshape how the mind experiences reality. This is not about becoming numb. It is about becoming unshakable. Stress does not begin with what happens. It begins with resistance. The mind creates suffering the moment it decides reality should be different from what it is. That internal argument consumes energy, tightens the body, and locks attention onto what cannot be changed. The more the mind resists, the more trapped it feels. Radical acceptance is not approval. It is not surrender. It is not giving up. It is the clear recognition of reality without emotional friction. It is the decision to stop wasting energy fighting facts. When the mind accepts what is present without adding judgment, tension dissolves. The body relaxes. The nervous system stabilizes. Mental clarity returns. From that clarity, effective action becomes possible. Resistance drains strength. Acceptance preserves it. Stoic acceptance does not ask whether something is fair or desirable. It asks whether it is real. Once reality is acknowledged fully, the mind regains power. Not power over the situation, but power over response. This is why acceptance matters. It ends the internal war that creates stress before any external pressure is even addressed. Without acceptance, the mind remains locked in opposition to life. With acceptance, the mind becomes aligned with it. Acceptance creates space. Space allows thought. Thought allows choice. Choice restores control. This is the foundation. Without it, no other principle works. Events do not disturb the mind. The stories attached to them do. The mind constantly interprets. It labels. It predicts. It assigns meaning. Most of this happens automatically, without awareness. Once a narrative forms, emotion follows it unquestioningly. When the mind treats its interpretations as facts, stress becomes unavoidable. The body reacts to imagined danger the same way it reacts to real danger. Over time, this repeated reaction becomes exhaustion. Stoic discipline begins with separating facts from interpretation. Facts are neutral. Narratives are optional. When the mind learns to awareness interrupts the automatic loop. When awareness is present, interpretation slows. When interpretation slows, emotion stabilizes. When emotion stabilizes, clarity returns. This is why controlling narratives matters. Stress is sustained by unexamined meaning. Remove the meaning, and stress loses its fuel. The Stoic mind does not argue with thoughts. It observes them. Observation creates distance. Distance creates freedom. Most mental suffering comes from investing energy in what does not belong to us. The Stoics made a clear distinction between what is within control and what is not. This distinction is not philosophical. It is practical. Confusing the two creates stress. Separating them creates peace. What belongs to you is limited. Your choices. Your effort. Your values. Your actions. Your character. Everything else exists outside your authority. When the mind tries to control outcomes, reactions, timing, or external approval, it becomes anxious by default. The world refuses to cooperate, and the mind interprets that refusal as failure. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means refusing to attach emotional stability to things that cannot be commanded. It means focusing energy only where it can actually produce results. When attachment loosens, mental weight drops. Expectations soften. The nervous system calms. The mind becomes lighter and more responsive. This principle matters because stress thrives on false responsibility. When the mind stops claiming ownership over what it cannot direct, stress loses its grip. Freedom begins with accurate boundaries. Emotions are not the problem. Escalation is. An emotion begins as a physical sensation. When the mind reacts to that sensation with interpretation and judgment, a loop forms. The loop feeds itself. Sensation creates thought. Thought intensifies sensation. The cycle repeats until the mind feels trapped. Stoic discipline focuses on interruption, not suppression. Suppression strengthens loops. Observation weakens them. When awareness is applied early, interruption restores choice. Choice restores agency. Agency dissolves helplessness. The Stoic mind learns to pause. In that pause, emotion loses authority. Comfort weakens tolerance. Weak tolerance magnifies stress. The Stoics deliberately trained their minds through voluntary discomfort. Not to suffer, but to strengthen perception. When the mind learns it can remain calm under mild strain, larger pressures lose their power. Avoidance shrinks capacity. Exposure expands it. This principle matters because modern life removes friction while increasing psychological demand. Without training, the mind becomes fragile. Fragility turns minor challenges into major stressors. Resilience is not inherited. It is built. When discomfort is chosen intentionally, the mind learns stability. That stability transfers into every area of life. Emotional intensity decreases. Reaction slows. Confidence becomes quiet and grounded. This principle matters not about because many people attempt to fix internal chaos without addressing external disorder. The two are connected. Order outside supports calm inside. Neutrality is strength, not emptiness. The Stoic ideal is not emotional suppression. It is emotional balance. Extremes distort perception. Neutrality preserves it. When the mind reacts excessively, it loses accuracy. When accuracy is lost, stress follows. Neutrality allows emotion without surrendering to it. It allows sensation without identity attachment. It allows experience without collapse. This principle matters because most suffering is caused by overreaction, not by reality itself. Steadiness protects clarity. Clarity protects peace. At this point, the structure is complete. Stress and depression are no longer mysteries. They are no longer enemies. They are signals created by misalignment between perception and reality. The mind that applies these principles stops feeding unnecessary suffering. It stops amplifying discomfort. It stops collapsing under pressure. This is not because life becomes easy. It is because the mind becomes strong. The shift is subtle but permanent. From reaction to response. From confusion to clarity. From emotional slavery to internal authority. This is the Stoic transformation. Stress and depression lose power when the mind is trained. Not eliminated, but rendered manageable. Temporary. Non-defining. The principles you have heard are not techniques. They are a way of seeing. A way of standing inside reality without being crushed by it. Peace is not found by avoiding life. It is found by meeting life with a steady mind. Here is the guiding truth that holds everything together. A steady mind is not one that feels nothing, but one that refuses to be ruled by what it feels. Carry that understanding forward. Let it shape how you interpret, respond, and live. Nothing else is required.